Hey, welcome to agriscaping.com. This is Justin Rohner. This is our Green Thumb Thursday, and we're going to talk about these babies right here. This is pomegranates. I've got Jason Tibbetts from Eden Institute joining with us, as well as Devin Williams joining us. And we're just going to talk about these pomegranates because a lot of people, if they're growing them in the hot areas right now, it's a wonderful heat-tolerant bush-like tree, or tree-like bush. I guess it depends on how you want to trim the thing when it all comes down to it. So we're going to talk about some of the nuances of it and some of the challenges that you might have with it. And along with that, talk about when the fruit is actually ripe, how to tell that, and also some of the challenges that you might face if you have offsets and watering. So we'll show you some symptoms. We've got two different trees we're going to go by. We'll start here with this first one, who has a lot of different things going on. So Jason, you want to tell us a little bit more what's going on with this particular tree?
Yeah, so pomegranates by nature tend to weep down, and especially as you get the fruit on it, it hangs down and just weighs the tree down. So one of the things we did on this tree is we put up this cable to kind of hold it together. And after several years of having a tree held up like this, those branches will actually become very strong on their own and create a permanent umbrella shape like that. And it really helps to hold up the tree. You know, doing that the first few years is really valuable in keeping that tree vertical like that. But we definitely have a lot of suckers going on here. We've got this particular tree is elevated up like this, and it doesn't get a lot of water. And you'll see as we go by the other tree, it's getting a little more water. And as a result, some of the pomegranates are a little smaller, and you start to see some of the splitting that commonly happens on these pomegranates if their water is inconsistent. Then they tend to split like that. So, what else would you add here?
Yeah, also the coloring on them. I mean, a lot of people are wondering, it's like on the color of the fruit. You know, we've got this one starting to redden out. Is this one ripe yet? I mean, that's the real question.
Not yet.
See, and what we have, what's the best time you like picking your pomegranates? Because I know I have my
different pomegranates ripen at different times of the
Yep.
year, but most of them are going to be in late summer and throughout the fall. My pomegranates aren't ripe generally until Thanksgiving, Christmas time. And, you know, I think most of these are ripe, around October, November?
That's usually when we start doing those. When the temperatures kind of get more in the averages of about 60 degrees, that's when they really starting to cool down. And if we can get the evenings even in the 40s or 50s, then they start turning more red on the interior. So a lot of people might pick the pomegranates at a time like this where they think they're ripe, and they're going to get a really pithy, not even a clear juice. It'll be mostly white and really crunchy seeds, and they're going... Yeah, so it's not the best time to be eating it. So let's go over to one of the other ones. We'll take you over to one that's watered a lot better and show you kind of what happens in terms of the size. You saw the size of those fruits and also kind of the leaf structure and those kind of things. Again, that one's elevated. It had a water line break, and so it caused a lot more water challenges through the hottest months. You know, it was 120 degrees here. But that thing still survives. So that's another thing to take into consideration, is a very desert hardy plant. These guys can grow very, very large. So here's another one right here. You'll see, I'll just back off of it. You can see it's got a lot more growth going on it. And with that growth, we've also got a lot larger fruits on it. And the coloring's a little bit different as well. So, and it just looks like overall a much healthier tree. So you look at all the leaves and everything as well. And we've got a variety of different ages. So this thing has been blooming pretty much the entire summer. And so we've got a much smaller fruit here. There's a much younger fruit there, as well as some of these more mature fruits that are starting to... See, this one, I'd actually start looking at that and saying, that might be ripe enough. I might actually start, even consider eating that one a little early.
Yeah.
It'll be a clearer juice. But on this guy, yeah, this one has a nice mulch bed, nice deep mulch bed, and it's also got a lot more water than it was getting here.
And a lot of the newer varieties of pomegranates are actually soft-seeded, so you almost don't even notice the seeds as you're biting into it, and they're just very, very sweet. They're extra sweet and very soft-seeded, so a lot of the newer varieties are definitely sought after compared to some of the older varieties that have harder seeds.
Yeah, our favorite one's a soft seed, dark red flesh, you know, and a very large fruit. So you got a lot of fruit in it. Now, we've also got a dwarf. So we got some dwarf pomegranates over here. I wanted to go take you over to this little guy. So you can get these on a tabletop. Now the challenge with these is that the size of the fruit is always going to be a lot smaller, but it's a cute little plant, and these things will bloom pretty regularly. And they have a tendency that's got a little bit of heat burn on this one. You can kind of see how the edge, the bottom of this plant right here, it's got a lot of heat burn. And so this has been a pretty arid spot as well, but it's still got some fruit on it. And these are often sold as ornamentals. And they still have fruit in them, but you want to wait till the weather cools down before you pick them and eat them, because they are similar to a wonderful, but what I've found, it's got a much crunchier seed on those dwarf varieties.
And tart.
Yeah, and tart, relatively speaking, especially if you pick it early. So there's one more tree we're going to show you. And Devin's back here asking questions.
Yeah, I do ask.
He has a questions. Do you have a question now that we can help answer?
Yeah, what I saw one at the top there. I was gonna pull it down, but we moved on. It had kind of a brown, like webbing, like spidery, webby thing going around on it, like a little.
Had a brown spidery webby thing going on it?
Okay, that's a weird way of saying it, but it had like a brown
Scab.
Scab. That's a better way of saying it.
Now, a lot of times what that is, it's got some damage if it's got some of the scabbiness and stuff. Like these ones, a lot of this damage that we've got here is actually a lot of wind. As the wind comes through here and they get torn up a bunch, these have been knocked around a lot, and so they get a little bit of a scabbiness that kind of gets on them. As well, it's an indicator that it's nice and dry. Now, one of these, so this one's got, I'm going to pull this one up here, and you can see this little shiny kind of blackish spot on it. Now, if I start seeing those a lot on my plants, that's actually an indicator I've got a pretty nasty bug, and I was actually looking around for it. There's these little bright red with black spots, and then the adult actually has a very, it's got leaf-footed feet, leafy legs, and it's a leaf-footed bug, and they actually will put these little straws inside, and they'll suck all the juice out of the interior of your pomegranate.
First they spit in it and start digesting it.
Yeah, and so if you open one that has them on it,
Here we go.
they get, oh yeah, here we go.
Some babies.
There's some little babies, the little nymphs. See if I can flip this around. There's one on my finger. Haha. See if we can show you what they look like. So there's one that's trying to escape right there. So that is a bad guy. And that's not the kind of thing that we want to see on our plants. And usually works pretty good if you get a neem oil, or even one of my favorites is called Captain Jack's Organic Bug Killer. And that particular one is really good on things that like to suck the juice out of your plants, especially your fruits.
That's a spinosad base. Right?
It's spinosa based, exactly. And that one actually works really good. It gets inside their digestive tract and kind of kills them from the inside. But it doesn't create a toxic environment for you.
It's a bacterium base.
Yep. It's a bacteria-based thing that can basically gets in their system, and it's kind of the opposite of having a good bioflora in your system. It'll actually kill those bugs, but it's actually a pretty decent one for us. So this one right here, a little bit different variety. I think this is actually that red silk that we were looking for. And so these ones we definitely want to try to keep in the tree. And we put this one in particular because I know this one tastes a lot better when it's got some cooler temperatures on it. We put it in an area that gets a little bit more of the afternoon shade, and so we can try to get it cooler a little quicker. And that's about it. You guys have anything else you want to communicate about these pomegranates for our Green Thumb Thursday?
Tastes good.
They taste good.
Pomegranates are awesome.
Pomegranates are awesome. What's your favorite way to put them? Use them. I mean, do you just eat them straight, or you put them in a
I like
recipe?
to sit down and eat them straight. I'll just take a knife and slice them in half, and then I'll tip them upside down and beat on them with the back end of a knife, and all the kernels just fall right out.
That's a good way to do it.
Picking them all out one at a time.
So for sure, when we get into the time where these things are actually ripe, we'll actually go through the process and show you how we like to harvest them, how we like to cut them to get them all out. I mean, there's a cool little thing you can do with floating. Actually, if you put it all underwater and you break them underwater, then it won't get all the stuff on your fingers, and then all the pith basically floats to the top, and you can just pour that off, and then all the little nice kernels go to the bottom with all their juiciness. They basically just sink to the bottom, and all the ones that have been eaten by bugs, if you got some of those, they'll float to the top as well. And so that's another one of those cool little tricks, but we'll actually show you how we do that, how we pick the ripe fruit, and how we work with that. Sound like a good idea?
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
All right, so that'll be a few months from now, but that's a good first step on your pomegranates. They're almost hard to kill, especially if you got good hot temperatures. Just like we showed, that thing didn't get water through 120-degree heat and a lot of dryness through June and July. And get them some water though, and they grow nice and big and can create a nice hedge between you and your neighbor if you need it. And great plant to have in the garden.
Yeah.
Huh?
It said, if you need some personal space.
If you need some personal space, you know, add a few pomegranates. It'll definitely cover that, you know. If you want to have that outdoor shower and you don't want your neighbors to be wondering,